Are the San Francisco 49ers on the cusp of making another big move going into the NFL trade deadline, which is coming up on Halloween? That's what we're talking about on today's 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. So glad all of you are here with us. A reason that we're talking about this is because ESPN NFL Insider said, don't sleep on the Niners making another big move prior to the deadline, even though last Friday they traded for Randy Gregory. So could another move be up the Niners' sleeve here? There's a couple of things that we need to unpack and dissect to see if this is possible for the Niners. And then at the end of the show, we're going to take a look at some 49ers trade targets. So stay tuned. This show is going to inform you. Right now, San Francisco has the most cap space in the NFL at $40+ million because from here on out until the end of the season, they're barely paying Randy Gregory anything. That's why I really like the deal. You give up draft compensation, and you're paying a very solid player who can help out this defensive line, the sack production, give Nick Bosa some help. No money at all. The NFL trade deadline coming up on October 31st, as I said. And San Francisco, under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they do have a history of being really aggressive at the deadline to improve this roster. Take a look at what the Niners have done in each of the last 5 years. And all of these players at some point or another ended up really impacting this team outside of Randy Gregory, who's set to make his debut in that Niner uniform against the Browns on Sunday. 2019, San Francisco trades for Emmanuel Sanders, and he was excellent for this football team down the stretch, added another element in that pass game, which needed it with quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. San Francisco in 2020, in an acquisition with the New York Jets, traded for Jordan Willis. That year, San Francisco was not good, but Willis was a really important member of this football team as far as a depth piece on this defensive line in 2021 and in 2022. If you remember, Green Bay Packers divisional round, it was him who blocked the punt when the snow was coming down at the Cathedral of Football, Lambeau Field, which led to the Talanoa Hufanga scoop and score late in that game, which allowed the Niners to pull off that upset over the number 1 seeded Green Bay Packers. Last year, Christian McCaffrey, the biggest splash deal on this list, and then San Francisco last week making that move with the Denver Broncos to bring in Randy Gregory to fortify their pass rush. So, under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, San Francisco, when they see that this roster has a need, they address it. And especially that could be the case this year because San Francisco looks to be the best team in the NFL, and why waste away an opportunity to bring home that 6th Lombardi trophy? Dan Graziano, ESPN, he is the NFL insider who said, don't sleep on the Niners making a move here. Here's the direct quote: don't rule out the possibility of the 49ers, as tremendous as they already are, adding a player if they think it can make a difference. The Niners had the biggest of goals for this season, and they were aggressive last year when running back Christian McCaffrey became available. Remember, the Rams adding Von Miller at the deadline a couple of years ago, that happened too. So if an opportunity for an impact guy like that comes along at the right cost, don't sleep on the idea of the rich getting richer in San Francisco. And who's to say that the Niners are not going to make yet another move? Dan Graziano's tapped in. He probably knows that a lot of teams are making calls right now, and we're about to go through a list of some really intriguing trade targets for the Niners here in just a bit. I'll tell you this, though. This is why you subscribe to the channel, because when the Niners make a move, we discuss it. Last Friday, I'm at Home Depot running some errands because I'm a handyman. I saw the notification. Randy Gregory traded to the Niners. I dropped everything that I was doing. I raced home to record a video. That's the standard, and this is the standard for Niners Talk right here on YouTube. And that's a big reason why we're past 93,000 subscribers. The thought here for the Niners, as we continue to dissect this, San Francisco has to go all in on this year. And they've already made moves to go all in on this year. You canvass the roster, you look at the premium players that they're paying, and some of the moves that they've made to be hyper-aggressive. San Francisco also is playing and looks like the best team in football. Are they peaking a little bit too early? They might be. And if they start to struggle in the midway point of the season, there will be reasons to be concerned. But with Kyle Shanahan being in his play calling and play designing bag, given the anticipatory throws that Brock Purdy is making, all of the talent on this team, who's to say they can't keep rolling? And if they keep rolling, is somebody else going to hop on the train as a trade candidate? Why waste an opportunity here to maximize this roster to the fullest degree? And this is a well-run organization that is smart at looking ahead. The previous history shows that, and Right now, that's evidenced by the Niners having $40+ million in cap space when they're paying big-time dollars to Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, Fred Warner, and the list goes on and on and on. John Lynch on managing the cap. When you're running a business, you have to have this type of foresight. He said, really, we always look at the cap 3 years out. Obviously, we have all that room this year, but really it's to create room for future years because we roll everything over. It helps us in future years because it creates some room we're going to need. A lot of you are probably wondering, well, the Niners right now, Chase, they have $40+ million in cap space. What happens with that money? You can use it now, or you can roll it over to continue to remain competitive and give yourself some roster flexibility. I do want to pop up today's poll question here, and I want to hear from the faithful down in the comment section here. Did the Niners need to make another move? T for trade, C for you think this team is content right now? Chime in and let us know. Coming up next on the program, players that the 49ers could trade for who could help them win a Super Bowl. Stay tuned for that. First, though, if you're not tuned in to Prize Picks, it's the best app for daily fantasy sports, and it's the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in America. And we have a great deal for the Niner gang, up to a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Make sure you plug in that promo code CLNS for that deal to apply. I love playing their more or less game. It makes game day so much more fun. So going into Sunday against the Browns, I'm going to go more than 47.5 receiving yards for Deebo. Whoa. I think George Kittle puts together back-to-back stellar performances, and the Browns have struggled to guard tight ends. So I think Kittle has more than 40.5 receiving yards. And because the Browns have so many questions at that quarterback spot, less than Amari Cooper at 59.5 receiving yards. The Niners defense has also been bringing it this year. So it's easy and exciting. Daily fantasy. Pick 2+ players. Choose more or less on their projected stat line. Get started today up to a $100 deposit match. Without further ado, Niners trade targets who could really impact this team moving forward. Let's begin with Danielle Hunter. The Minnesota Vikings, ladies and gentlemen, are a bad football team. Niners set to take on Minnesota next Monday night, by the way, and they could have a fire sale. Justin Jefferson might get ruled out for the rest of the year. It looks as though they might not bring back Kirk Cousins. And could they trade away Danielle Hunter, who up to this point for that Vikings defense has been playing really, really good football? There were contractual disputes all throughout the offseason. Vikings and him able to come to an agreement on a restructured deal. He's playing like a motivated man right now. 25 tackles, 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble. For a long time, he's been one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, and this year, he certainly played like one. Trade target number 2, maybe a player who's even better than Danielle Hunter, and I know for a fact he's younger than Danielle Hunter. Brian Burns of the Carolina Panthers has become a folk hero here on the Niners Report because we talked about him last year going into the deadline before the Niners traded for Christian McCaffrey. We're talking about him once again. And like Danielle Hunter, one of the premier players at that edge rusher spot, he is in a contract year. Carolina has not won a game yet. If the Panthers think that they're just going to tank the rest of the year and not re-sign Brian Burns, why not trade him away to a team that's willing to acquire him, trade for him, and then pay for him once free agency comes around? For Burns, 4 sacks, he's on his way to another really good season as one of the best edge rushers in the game. To offensive tackle, this name will intrigue a lot of people out there. Garrett Bowles, the offensive tackle for the Denver Broncos. Like the Vikings, like the Carolina Panthers, all of these teams, including the Denver Broncos, in a similar theme. Bad teams jockeying right now for playoff positioning because they know they're not going to be a playoff squad in 2023, so could they end up trading some of their marquee players and get some good value back, of course. For Bowles, a better offensive tackle than Colton McKivitz. The issue with Bowles, he's played 300+ snaps this year at just left tackle. He would have to switch over to the other side because you're going to keep the silverback Trent Williams over at that left tackle spot. Overall Pro Football Focus grade for Bowles, coming in at 73.1, an excellent pass blocking grade at 79.3, run blocking grade 65.6. In Kyle Shanahan's system, though, it is very friendly to offensive linemen who can get out in space and are athletic, and Bowles is only 2 penalties in those 300 snaps, 1 sack allowed, 1 hit allowed, and 9 pressures allowed. He's played 300 snaps at left tackle, a couple of other snaps at tight end, as the Broncos enter into some short yardage situations. Trade target number 4 is Patrick Surtain. Of the players here who we've already talked about and who we're going to talk about on today's show, Patrick Surtain is so intriguing because he's a young, cost-controlled asset who could be a blue-chip player for your team for the next several years. And when you're building a football team, I think it's really important outside of quarterback to beef up the offensive line, beef up the defensive line, and then invest a little bit in that secondary too, considering that rules cater to offenses, and it's an offensive league in the National Football League right now. So if you can have a shutdown cornerback like Patrick Surtain, who can be out by himself on an island, it allows you to mix up man coverages, zone coverages, but then if you combine him on the field with Charvarius Ward is a very solid player. Mooney has been bringing it every single week, but it also allows Deommodore Lenoir to probably go to a position where I think that he could be a Pro Bowler at, and that's nickel slot corner, because he's a little bit too short to play that outside corner role, even though he's played excellent football this year in 2023 as well. And then trade target number 5, Jeremy Chinn, also of the Carolina Panthers. Again, all of these teams awful. Vikings, Panthers, Broncos. Jeremy Chinn, pretty intriguing player too, because he played at Southern Illinois, and he was kind of a draft gem a few years ago by Carolina. Comes in, has a tremendous rookie year, but that organization has been on a tumultuous path over the last few years, and because of that, different defensive schemes, different defensive coordinators, Jeremy Chinn's numbers have been up and down. One thing has remained constant, though. It's his versatility. He could play slot nickel, which he plays a lot of. He can also play deep safety. And when you have a versatile option like that, like Jimmy Ward was last year for this football team, it allows you to keep Deshaun Gibson, Talanoa Hufanga on the field. But then you can get rid of an Isaiah Oliver. You put in a Jeremy Chinn, and that strengthens your secondary to a great degree. Overall Pro Football Focus grade for Chinn at 70.4, coverage grade of 70.8, 14 tackles, 9 stops to go along with 1 sack. This is a player who I would also like the Niners to target. With that, I ask you this, because I look at the analytics on this show, and it's really interesting to see people watching from everywhere across the world, but also our age group spans from like 18 to 65, which is awesome because I feel relatable to every age group. So who's your favorite Niner of all time? Drop a name down below in the comments section. I'm going Jerry Rice for sure.